Hey everybody, it's your boy. In this video, we'll be discussing political and cultural progress, though you will be interested to know that actually, this is my second script on the subject. I had completed the old one and was just about to record it a few months back when I realised I had made a fundamental error in the video that required a full rewrite. I was reading a book and I cannot remember exactly which book it was, but it mentioned how even conservatives believe in progress, at least a different kind to say leftists do. And I was very annoyed with myself because I just realised I had created a straw man, because I said some of them don't believe in any kind of progress and want everything to remain the same. But of course they believe progress happens, but I was conflating their desire to preserve certain things with wanting nothing to change, and also with a lot of conservatives' inability to prevent the left's forward march in culture and politics. Although the message of the video was fine, and it will still be the message of this video, I realised I had to rethink and rewrite it. So here it is. First off, those of us on the right need not be afraid of it. We certainly ought to be sceptical of progress, especially the kind of progress that is endorsed by those on the left and the globalist elite. In the former case, we have seen what it has done to countries all over the world. Poverty, genocide, cultural decline, less freedom, the list is endless. Likewise, the latter also has some similar issues. These are visions of progress that we shouldn't just be sceptical of, but also reject in their entirety. In fact, I would argue that our side has acquiesced and compromised so much with these visions that we should do so no more. Because over the last several decades, when we've seen so-called conservative leaders compromise and adopt leftist policies, like the current Tory party in the UK or the post-Reagan conservatives like the Bushes and a lot of the never-Trumpers, they always seem to just give more and more to the left. Nixon, for example, 40 years ago, introduced affirmative action amongst many leftist political moves he played when he won the presidency. They gave so much away that we got very little in return, or little is left over for us. This is why presidents like Reagan or Thatcher win, and why wets like Boris do not win unless they exaggerate their right-wing credentials. Those who do not compromise on their principles are seen as the better alternative and often manage to get significant change for the better done, whereas those who do compromise on their values are seen as weak and just giving more away. Nixon thought he would have been respected by all for what he did with those policies, but he wasn't, because the left doesn't like the right. Why should we compromise with a side that has never actually offered the compromise of their own, only accepted our side's offers because they know they will grab more in the future? Why should we compromise our values for the sake of so-called stability, when we make everything less stable by giving into what the left wants year after year? We have a philosophy that we know is better, provides more freedom, more prosperity, we stand for better morality, yet we see the people who should know better discard them constantly. Progress, therefore, shouldn't just be something we should be sceptical of or reject every version of. We need to be our own progress. This is a big ask, a lot of people will say, but what is the alternative? Either we allow the left to do what they want, or we continue to allow those currently in the mainstream of right-wing politics to cook themselves, or we take control of it ourselves and make it our own. Now, that doesn't mean we don't attempt to preserve the traditions or institutions or morals that have helped our society for so many years, but if a tradition or an institution is so damaging to society or superfluous, then we must not be afraid of either getting rid of it or changing it for the better. We cannot conserve things to the point that they begin to make our culture stagnant. Even then, with the nature of change and progress, they may well change anyway. Our generations will come and go to be replaced by new ones. They will be different people with different worldviews, with a different context to their lives. That doesn't mean they will be completely different, but that means that these traditions, institutions, etc. will naturally change because the people in charge are different and will unconsciously change it, or at least unconsciously change certain aspects. Some will obviously remain the same. All we can do is hope that we can provide enough wisdom and guidance when they are young to make sure that the change is positive. It also means that an old tradition, once considered worthless, could make a comeback because it's considered a good one for the future conditions. For those who are more conservative and want to see as little change as possible, you have to ask yourselves where you may be going wrong and why people may be rejecting the things you want preserved and see as valuable. For example, and this may be a contentious question to ask, but I've yet to have a satisfying answer to this, but Christianity, and for that matter any Abrahamic faith, why are they declining? Why are we seeing church, mosque, synagogue numbers, or any other kind of religious building these various faiths have, see their numbers declining all over the world? Although Islam has seen a rise in Europe technically, mainly due to immigration, not conversion, or even birth rate, Christianity and Judaism and the other Abrahamic denominations and religions have seen a decline. Even Islam, as hard as it is to believe, has seen a decline in the Middle East, slowly but surely. In the West, it is Christianity that is the main religion, but we now live in a world where there are countries like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, and even the UK, where most people are not religious. Though they do still call themselves Christian or claim to believe in some kind of spirituality and God, they seem to reject Christianity. Why is that? That is something a lot of the Christians among us will have to reckon with. I'm an atheist. That's not something I can answer for you, unfortunately. I was never religious to begin with. Because I don't believe it is necessarily a conscious rejection of Christianity for a lot of people, and it's clear that they are not all agnostic or atheists. If you want to preserve that religion and institution, you're going to have to think if something needs improving, or if things need removing, or even, dare I say, added. The Catholics used to steal from the pagans, well, the rest of you can steal from others too. Perhaps we need to think of a different philosophical system to give people meaning and purpose in life, or to create a moral structure for society if Christianity and the rest of the monolithic religions decline to such an extent they become minor religions again. A vacuum is potentially on the horizon, and we don't want regressive ideologies or Islam to take its place in the West. So in a sense, progress can be something that is inevitable or hard to stop. Eventually one will have to make a decision based on the choices it gives us, but that doesn't mean that all types of progress are determined or inevitable. Incentives are a powerful tool to persuade people to adopt another course, and it is something that we ought to know about considering the many economically literate people on our side. But we're going to need the right people in the right positions in order to change the incentives of society to reject socialism, particularly things like the welfare state, protectionism, and, if you're British, state healthcare like the NHS. We will need to somehow teach people that despite what their heart tells them, free market and free trade is what will grant them prosperity and health. That a small government, or even no government for the anarchists, will provide more freedom than a big one. It's going to take many years, but people believed in it once before, perhaps they can again. All I ask of us in this case is once again, stick to your guns, be patient, and never compromise. Now, although we cannot compromise on our values, and that will prove valuable when fighting the culture war against the left, that doesn't mean trade-offs aren't going to happen. The biggest problem that the left has when they enact their version of progress is that many of their movements, aside from maybe the cultural Marxists, they attempt change at too fast a pace, to the extent that society is almost destroyed. In Britain, for example, it's going to take those of us on the right a very long time to wean people off the NHS. The British people have become so brainwashed that they can only see the NHS as the best alternative in the world, and the worst alternative being the American system. They've been lied to and told that the American system is the free market system, when it isn't. They need to be shown what a true free market healthcare system looked like, and all the other different types just across the sea. Germany, the Netherlands, the Scandinavian countries, France, they all have completely different healthcare systems, not only from Britain, but from each other. It will take many years of reform and work to change that. We cannot afford to be too hasty. Likewise, the state will also require a long-term effort to reduce its size, not because of caution, but because deep state elements will be so embedded that it will require a surgeon's touch to root them out. Likewise, the university. We cannot be too slow either, otherwise we will lose the initiative, but to act too quickly risks losing the consent of the governed and the return of the left. It's a balancing act that we'll have to learn to deal with. So ultimately, progress is something we cannot reject. We can reject elements of it, we can reject different visions, but we have to have our own vision on something that can be implemented. But because of how deeply embedded leftism is in our society, we're going to have to be careful in how we go about this progress. But anyway, that's the end of the video, and until next time, I'll see you all later.